So, because you mentioned you were a musician, how did you transition to the actual? Because most of us used to think that all these records, they're a whole band in a studio playing it, and the guys are someone's rap singing over a microphone. We realized that actually all this stuff is programmed. So how did you transition from playing your keys and drums to actually, I need to learn how to program what I'm doing, or how did it work for you in those early days?
Well, for in those days, um, we didn't really have the Pro Tools and everything that we have now, Logic and all of that software. So I actually played all my instruments, or actually played all my parts. So if a song was, back in those days, songs were 5 minutes, 4 minutes, and whatever, like they were just long. Um, if I was playing a keyboard part, Namdi, I played the actual part for 5 minutes, right? I will play the piano part for 5 minutes from the beginning to the end. If there was some string parts, I will play the string parts for the whole five. If there was a bass line, I will play the bass line all the way through, as opposed to cutting and paste. And the things that we have now to kind of speed up the process. I actually enjoy playing it all the way through because it was the little nuances that made the song feel something different, and feel a little bit different. So every now and then there was a different type of movement. The eight bars wasn't always the same as the previous 8 bars, you know what I mean? So it was a little changes and little notes. So I enjoyed that part. But now, thank God, I have a bunch of engineers and young producers around me who can help me speed up the process, so I
No,
don't have to.
no, we miss the old school way of doing it. Music is not the same. I mean, yeah, we miss.
No, I still do it that way. I still prefer playing the songs and touching knobs and EQ things. I'm old school, man.
Okay. Now, a lot of my guests keep saying when you interview producers, find out what MPC. Were you using any MPC? What back in those Chub Rock and Christopher Williams days?
Back in those days, we used the SP1200 a lot. The SP12 back in those days. I got into the MPC because of Teddy. Teddy Riley was rocking the MPC, so I started working the MPC after watching Teddy Riley. And then later on, Rodney Jerkins, Darkchild, would invite me to his house and give me MPCs with amazing drum sounds that were life changing. So, I still use the MPC. We have the new ones now. But for me, the formula is the same, and that formula works for me. So yeah. I'm definitely the MPC is my favorite still to this day.
Okay. As I said, I am the least technical producer, so I have no idea anything you've just said. But I know that the people who are going to be like, "Oh, he's the SB what?" Okay, now I'm saying, okay,
and the MPC 3000 in particular.
Yes. Okay. But who taught you how to move from, playing instruments to? So is it Teddy that was saying, "Okay, you best do this when you're producing. You can play your sounds into it," or how did you shift from that to know that, wow, this is how we actually make music, actually is through these devices as opposed to playing a band in a studio?
Well, just watching, because in those days we actually did play everything. If you wanted somebody to play you wanted a bass part, you called in a bass player. If you wanted a guitar player, you called in a guitar player. Now, they have Splice and all these other programs that you can just, drag and drop and blah, blah, blah. But even now, for me, if I want a certain feel, I'm going to still call an instrumentalist over. I'm going to call a guitar player, a bass player, and then we're going to create it. But I learned so much from Teddy Riley, Jam Master Jay, Herbie Lovebug, Herbie Azar, who was the producer for Kid and Play and Salt and Pepper, and so many other artists. I had the privilege of sitting around these genius producers, and I just learned different styles from each and every one of them.
What did you do with Salt and Pepper? Did you do any tracks that we would have?
Yes, I wrote on some songs musically. Express Yourself with Salt. She produced it. Yeah.
Oh,
and Jackie McGee was the vocalist. Yep, okay. Jackie McGee. Yep.
Okay, yes, Jackie, because I did interview Jackie and she said yes. Yourself and the two of you came in to just to shift things around. Okay.
Yeah, that was an amazing day. That was a great session. It was
Oh,
amazing.
so then when Salt is producing, how what was I mean? Because now it is very interesting that you said this, and I know that Timbaland has said it recently about there's a difference between a beat maker and a producer. So you said that Salt was producing. What was the difference between what you brought to the table and what she did as the producer on that track?
Well, she had the overall vision. She knew what she wanted. She knew what she wanted to sound like. She necessarily couldn't sit at the keyboard and play it,
Mm.
but she would give me space, and creative freedom to come up with progressions, and she would determine if she liked it or not. And if it made sense, she loved it, and then she would lock that in. But she, overall, as a producer, can see exactly where she was going and how she wanted to put it all together.
And so that
So
doesn't necessarily mean that
she's an
she
amazing
needed to know
producer.
how to play the drums. She didn't have to.
No, not at all. But she knew how to find her beats and what samples she wanted to use. So when it came to beats and rhythms and samples, like she was a mastermind of putting that together. But if she needed me to play some piano transitions or whatever, then I would add that to the I would bring that to the table, and then she would use it, as she will.
So for you to, as you said that, so you were able to then distinguish between when, because some people would say, no, you would have said, well, I produced the track, I played all the stuff. She just did, and that's some of the things they label with Puffy. But, I think we've learned to appreciate the fact that the producer has a vision like a Quincy Jones. He brings in all these instrumentals to come and play the different elements of
Absolutely.
the dangerous or the bad album or the thrill album or off the wall, but he won't necessarily play it to himself.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So yes, so that conversation can be interesting and tricky. Um, but for me, but for me, I always knew my assignment, and then if I came up with arrangements, then they would give me writers credits on those records. So it worked out. It was always a fair situation,
Okay.
at least from my
From
experience.
your experience. Hey guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for being part of the Halftime Chat community. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. But most importantly, why don't you consider being a member? That's a way of supporting the channel, but also getting a lot of videos ahead of time, a lot of behind the scenes stuff, and some exclusive content that doesn't get shared. But anyway, thanks for watching and thanks for being part of Halftime Chat.